Welcome in and welcome back to the Down South Philly show. And this stream right here is powered by the Sports Lounge Media. How we feeling today, man? I'm excited, man. Is we getting every day we getting a little bit closer to that regular season. Every day we getting a little bit closer to real football kicking off on September the 4th, man. I'm excited about that. But we had some interesting stuff happened since the last time we talked. So obviously, what's good, Bagel? That's right. That's right. Right on time. Right on time. So last time we kicked it, it was for the Eagles Brown stream, and we saw some good things. Feeling great. That's what I love to hear, man. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. I heard Daniel Jones is officially named the starter. But the last time we kicked it, it was the Browns game. So we saw some good things in that game, some great things actually. Andrew McCouber was actually able to get him a pick six, best play in football. Can't can't knock that. He also got a fumble recovery. Jahai Campbell did some good things in the game. Still wasn't able to see any cornerback take like uh, a big leap in the starting position outside of Quinyon Mitchell, obviously. But Bagel said he hype. Yeah, man. We almost there. We almost there. We got one more weekend of preseason football. And this is the weekend where, when you talk about players who are on the bubble, those players who are trying to get a job, this is audition tape for the rest of the league. So if they don't have a chance with the team that they're actually on, they got a chance to put some good tape out there and get picked up by, 31 other squads got a chance to see what you got. So yeah, man, it's the last week for that. But like I was saying, Jahai Campbell showed some good things. We saw some good things out of Smile Monday. Um, Ty Robinson, the Vanilla Gorilla, gotta love it. But before we hop into the full scope of that game, um, some stuff has happened since then. So for one, we gotta talk about Swole Batman. So AJ Brown, that's right. He he didn't even debut. He was on the countdown. He made it number 29 in the league. My boy AJ Brown. So I mean when we talk about a player like AJ Brown, I just released a list on social media of my top 10 wide receivers, and I got a lot of flack for that. I got so much flack for that. Um Mostly it came down to everybody was complaining I had AJ Brown too high. I had him at number 2. Um, a lot of people said that was too high, and I think they pretty much more so than me having him number 2. The first problem they had was I put him above Justin Jefferson. And then somebody said that he needed to be like number 9, which is crazy. Uh, but it really comes down to preference, right? When you talk about, so I feel like at the very least you got to put them in your top 3. Now, where you put them in that top 3, that's your business. If you want to go Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, I'm cool with that. If you want to go Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, it really don't matter. I just personally feel like with his skill set, what he brings to the table, at the very least, you should be able to put him in your top 3. If not, I get it. I'm not going to agree with you. Some people say that the talent gap is wide between when you talk about a Jamar Chase and a Justin Jefferson and then the rest of the league. Some people say that CD Lamb is way better than AJ Brown. I don't believe that. But when it comes to top wide receivers in the league, this list is all you need to see. This is his peers grading him 29th out of the top 100 players. He dropped a little bit this past year. Yeah, I mean, Bagel said AJ Brown is 100% top five. Top five is cool, man. I think it's all about preference once you get down to like the top five players, right? So when you talk about a top five players, you know how many players there are in the league. So tens of thousands of players in the league, and when we get down to the final 10, of course you got to nitpick it, right? Um, so at the end of the day, it really comes down to preference. With my boy AJ, it just validates everything that I feel about him. Obviously, we still haven't seen some of the players that are going to be named or introduced or unveiled on the show. So I'm excited about that too. But yeah, well deserved, man. Well deserved. So we got to talk about some camp news. Uh, we had some injuries today, man. So obviously, when we talk about staying on track with AJ Brown, um, he's been out with a hamstring injury the past 3 weeks, 17 days, I think. 16 active players in the NFL, so thousands. Yeah, it's a thousand, 1,600, almost 2,000. To be when you get down to the last 5 players, 10 players, you got to nitpick to put them wherever you want to do. So I'm cool with that. I'm not tripping over that too much. We know what we got in Philly. But yeah, we had some injury news today. So for one, Johnny Wilson got carted off the field. Couldn't really put any pressure down on his leg. Hopefully, it's not anything too serious. We don't know exactly what it is. We just know the fact that he couldn't finish practice today, which sucks because Johnny Wilson been having an amazing camp, and then he was able to follow it up with a great game against the Bengals, being able to show his true size and play at a 6'6" wide receiver with a 200 plus frame. You just hate to see these players give so much and things finally click, then they get hurt and get pushed to the end of the depth chart. So we had Johnny Wilson get banged up. Um, uh, Somebody else got hurt. Oh, Andrew Makuba. Andrew Makuba was another one. He actually, he just got back from a shoulder injury. Um, was able to play his first preseason game against the Browns and had a pretty damn good game. I mean, anytime you able to get a pick six, that's next level for me. To me personally, I feel like the pick six is the best play in football. Um, Except for when it's your quarterback throwing them. But if you root for the defense when they're doing something like that, this is something amazing to see. Obviously, he was able to get a pick six. That's a huge confidence boost to him. Then he followed that up with a fumble recovery, but unfortunately, today in practice, he pulled up with a hamstring injury. You hate to have those kind of soft tissue injuries because they tend to linger throughout the season, right? But why it's so big in this case is because he just had that great game against the Browns, and now we already saying, well, how bad is it? How much time is he gonna miss? When you're in a camp battle, you're trying to be the starting safety or starting at any position, you really can't afford to miss time, right? Not only that, he's a rookie, so those reps are even more valuable because he hasn't gotten to see what true NFL speed and talent looks like when it matters. Obviously, he's going against some of the best athletes that the NFL has to offer in playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, but it's nothing like lining them up the under the bright lights, TV. It's a different feel when it counts, right? So he's gonna miss some time. Hopefully, it's not too bad of an injury on his hamstring, and he's able to come back relatively quickly. I'd like to see him have a chance to win the spot, but injuries like this kind of hamper you from that. So how does this directly affect the Eagles from a depth standpoint? So obviously, we still got Sidney Brown, who he was in the battle with. You got McCullum, who not necessarily was in the battle, but he's one of those veteran players. He's been in the system at least a year or two, and you suspect with Makuba going down, him to be in the rotation to possibly, get some snaps. Now we have heard of Big Fangio playing around with the rotation a little bit when it comes to, you know, when we're in the base formation. We've heard some talks of um, Cooper DeJean going to safety. We've heard some talks of sliding them to the outside with us not really having a bona fide cornerback number two opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. So let's see what Bagel said. I think that as long as y'all starters can stay at least 90% healthy, you'll get. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not worried about the playoffs, Bagel. Like the playoffs, you never want to say there are no guarantees in sports, but playoffs is kind of like expected at this point with this. For us not to make the playoffs, the whole season has to go terribly wrong. But to your other point about injuries can derail not only this season but any season. If you lose the wrong players at the wrong time for an extended period of time, you can go from Super Bowl contender to not even making the playoffs if, God forbid you get one of those season ending injuries to your star players. So you're absolutely right when it comes to your overall season. You got to stay healthy. The healthiest team is generally the one who makes it to the end and who has the best chance of winning at the end of the day. We can't just think that a season like the 2017 Super Bowl season is going to happen every time, right? So for those of you who are not familiar, um, that was the Eagles' first Super Bowl season. Lost a lot of talent that year, starting with the quarterback. So Carson Wentz went down against the Rams. We lost a left tackle. We lost, I think, a running back. We lost a lot of stuff. We lost a lot of stuff, but no, just because we lost even though we lost all those players, we still were able to make a deep playoff run, ultimately get to the Super Bowl and win that. So you only get one of those. And we already been blessed with that. So health is key, man. Health is key. So when we talk about health and obviously what does that mean for the 53-man roster? So getting these types of injuries now is it couldn't come at a worse time for these players, honestly. So obviously we've traded for John Mechie a couple days ago, sending out one of our backup tight ends and pick swap. So we got the 53-man roster that we got to start thinking about who's gonna make this team. Um, so what I need you to do is drop in the comments ideally who your wide receiver lineup would be. Are you a Johnny Wilson guy? Do you want to see a nice Smith make the roster? Um, I know we've heard some great things and seen some great things out of Darius Cooper in this camp. Do we want to take the chance of letting him go to waivers and possibly get claimed by somebody else? That's something to think about. We got a lot of young talent, loaded room. Um, I don't suspect Mechie to be on the chopping block because he's the one that we just traded for. So, I don't see us trading for him just to turn around and cut him. So that would be it's gonna be interesting to see what we do after this last preseason game. Obviously, traditionally the third preseason game, the last one of the preseason. You don't see many starters out there, right? Take a chance, coach. Pick him. Take the chance so the coach can see. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's always a chance for players to get claimed off waivers, right? So if you really, really want to keep somebody, your best bet is just to keep him on the squad. Because if you let him go to waivers, it's a chance that he could go elsewhere. And we're not happy with that. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, especially from the wide receiver standpoint, who's in and who's out. Um, Obviously, we heard a lot about Elijah Cooks in this offseason and what he brought to the table. So, what w- tell me who do you want to stay basically? Who out there you got your eye on? You've been hearing some things. You've seen them in camp. You've seen them compete in preseason. Who are some of the guys that you want to keep on the roster? I'll be interested to see how y'all feel about that. So for me, ideally, we already know that AJ, Smitty, and Jahan Dotson are pretty much a lock. They're a lock to make this team. Nobody um, is questioning those three. So 4 and below, that's when things get tricky. So in my opinion, just off of a roster spot, that fourth guy should be Mechie because we just traded for him. Um, number 5 could be Johnny Wilson. Um, Depending on how serious the injury is. If it's serious enough where he's got to miss maybe a week or two, then just put him on the pup list. That way we get to keep him and it saves a roster spot. So depending on how severe Johnny Wilson's injury is, keep him at the 5. I'd like to see Darius Cooper make the list too. But do we necessarily need to keep 6 or 7 wide receivers? I don't know. It, that's a heavy room. So again, we got AJ, Smitty, Jahan Dotson, Mechie, Wilson, um, Darius Cooper, Elijah Cooks, Anaya Smith. I'm sure it's at least Terrace Marshall. That's 9 right there. So I don't know. It's gonna be some tough decisions. I'm glad I don't have to make them. Because when you think about those bubble players, especially when you talk about like an Anaya Smith, he's been having a great camp. He also can give you something from the return in the return game. So we don't really have a bona fide returner. So that might be something that's in his favor outside of the fact that we drafted him. We also drafted Johnny Wilson, had a great camp, got hurt though. So it's TBD on Johnny. Elijah Cooks was having an amazing camp. Uh, but he got hurt. So, it's about the availability. Your availability is the best ability. So I'd be interested to see who makes it, the the injury severities of some of these players, and not only from the injury itself, but I mean the severity of how much time it costs you, right? Because not only do you have to worry about getting back healthy, you got to worry about if you still got a spot because while you were gone, somebody stepped up and showed out like a Darius Cooper. So I mean, in an ideal world, I guess I would say 5 or 6. I don't see us keeping more than 6 wide receivers on the roster. So one more time, I got AJ, Smitty, Jahan Dotson, um, Mechie, Darius Cooper. Let's go Anaya Smith for number 6 right now. And that's just assuming that Johnny Wilson's injury is more severe than we know at the moment. But I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all's list is. Um, let's get to this game though, analyze it a little bit more. When we talk about obviously our preseason game with the Cleveland Browns, um, we heard some interesting things out of camp, right? So when we were going through these joint practices with Cleveland, um, we weren't really winning a lot of the day. Seemed like they brought more juice. It seems like they also caught us in a period where there is no AJ. Smitty was limited. Um, we had a number of players maybe on rest, like a Lane Johnson. So you end up with a Miles Garrett just wrecking our whole offensive line. And while that's a little concerning, you got to take it in the context that we weren't at full strength and there were players, key players that we're going to expect to contribute throughout the season that just weren't there. Um, and you got to remember that with us being a defending Super Bowl champ, we're gonna get everybody's best this year. That just goes without saying. When it comes to every team on the roster, every team on the schedule this year, we're gonna be their measuring stick. We're gonna be their mini Super Bowl, if you will. Everybody, wants to know how they measure up to the defending champ. So we're gonna get everybody's best, and I think we got our first taste of that with the Browns, who historically always have a decent to good defense. Jim Swartz is a hell of a coach. His time was up here, but obviously he was a part of that 2017 team that I mentioned earlier. But he always gets his guys ready to play. He got some dogs over there on the defensive side of the ball, and they brought it. They brought it all, both joint practices, and some would even say that they won day two, and on day one they did get the better of us, but we just had more talent, and ultimately we won by default just because we're better, a better team than them. But like I said, that's just something that we're gonna have to get used to this season because we're gonna get everybody's best. Kind of carried over into the game a little bit. I mentioned earlier that nobody really took the cornerback two position by the horns yet, right? So nobody outright won the position. So we still had to see. And I don't from a cornerback position, I don't think we learned a whole lot because we didn't really have we were going against Dylan Gabriel. We went against did Huntley get some time? Huntley might have got some time, but definitely Dylan Gabriel coming back from injury. So we didn't really get a whole lot of great reps, right? Because when you talk about a Gabriel, it's not like he's going to throw it down the field. So they kind of had the day off. What we did see, however, was Makuba. I mentioned earlier, he made a pick six. Dylan was kind of indecisive. It was two wide receivers in the same area, and Makuba split them and took it to the house. So he took advantage of an inexperienced quarterback, which you're supposed to do, and made the most out of it. Then he followed that up with a fumble recovery. But I overall, I think my biggest takeaways from the game were on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, when you think about a Jahai Campbell, he's everything that we could hope for him to be. And I still don't understand how he falls all the way to the end of the first round, but I appreciate you. It just seems like I don't know, man. It takes luck for these things to happen because there's no way that you can plan for a player of his ilk, obviously coming from Alabama, being one of he was a top 10, top 5 pick, but there were injury concerns, right? He had shoulder concerns, he had knee concerns. Don't look like none of that is the case now. He flying around camp. You got to tell him to dial it back. So you can tell that he was excited to be here from day one. The draft night, he was crunk, jumping all over the place when he got picked. So it's just amazing that these type of players continue to be, let's see, random Anton. Our offense didn't do any favors for those fringe offensive players. No, they didn't. They left a lot to be desired, right? So we didn't really get to see a whole lot offensively against the Browns, which was interesting. Obviously, the run game to me is what stuck out in game one and game two. Um, But DTR, man, oh my. DTR, all right, so I don't want to see DTR play another snap for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've seen enough. Tell him to go ahead and clock out. Go ahead. Whenever the first cuts are made, and they gotta turn that list in, DTR name better be on the top of that list. He was awful. Um, I understand we gotta have these camp arms. We traded for him in hopes that he can come in and provide some competition for that quarterback 2 position, but I've seen enough, man. He didn't look like a vet. He just bad decision after bad decision of the same type of decisions. Uh One of them ultimately ended up in, a pick six going the other way. So when we talk about players like DTR, it ain't even no discussion. I think I'd be surprised if anybody was advocating to keep a DTR on the roster. But if you ask me, I've seen enough. Go ahead and clock out, man. Don't even waste no time. He don't even need to be here for the last 2 practices, in my opinion. But that play, his play as a whole in the preseason game, we just wasn't able to get no good work, which also, we didn't get to see Darius Cooper expand on his, preseason. We didn't get to see Johnny Wilson do anything, obviously, because we just didn't have the players out there. Now, when we talk about Kyle McCord, he showed me everything that I was hoping to see out of DTR. Now, did he go out there and light it up? I wouldn't say that. But I mean, he good enough to hold the clipboard. I was at this point in time, Kyle McCord is good enough to hold a clipboard. Hopefully we don't even need him this season, but we got to get DTR out of here. Like soon I'm talking about if practice in at 5, DTR need to go ahead and have all his pads turned in by 5:01. I seen enough. But it was stuff like, so Anaya Smith was able to get in the end zone. So we continue to see a good camp out of Anaya Smith. So I was, let's see, our old line that makes me nervous too. I'm less worried about the old line. You talking about the Eagles, right? Um, I'm less worried about the Eagles old line just because we do when we talk about Elaine Johnson, obviously he's older, right? Tyler Steen can kind of give you some cause for pause from an injury standpoint. Now, when he's on the field, he's going to be a starter. Obviously, we don't have any concerns with Beef Jerky. Landon Dickerson recovering from the torn meniscus and the surgery, and Jordan Mailata, who for the most part has pretty much been the Iron Man. Obviously he could. Okay, I had to make sure. Obviously he could always miss a game or two here or there, but for the most part, he's pretty healthy too. But behind him, I I'm not gonna say they wowed me, but at the same time, I think that I still like how we look in the run game with our backup units. Um, and the second string, I think our second string O line is good enough to get us through a couple games. Now, obviously, hopefully, we don't need the whole O line at any time because that would be a disaster. But I think in spots with Stoutland University, I don't have any questions or concerns about anything that Stout got going on. I trust him completely to put the best 5 out there on each and every drive, and we just gonna keep it there with them. Uh, but outside of that, still, I think the main talking points for that game all live on defense for us. I talked about Jahad Campbell already. Um, Liking what I'm seeing out of Ty Robinson, man. How about that? So that's actually outside of, the high draft pick of Jahad Campbell. Ty Robinson was probably my favorite pick in the draft. He kind of, and not saying that he's this type of player, um, or even has this type of trajectory, but he just reminds me of TJ Watt. Just that the frame, he's a bigger guy, obviously coming out of Wisconsin. Uh, he was just, my exciting pick of the draft. So I'm glad to see that he was able to. I think he got a sack in the first game. He was able to follow that up with, getting some pressure against the Browns. Who else showed out? Smile London. He made a few plays, showed that he could be a coverage guy. So we can kind of, Vic Fangio can get kind of creative using him in space, if need be. Hmm. I would say Sidney Brown didn't, while he didn't necessarily make any jaw dropping plays, I don't think he did anything too much for us to be concerned outside of the fact that he's just a scud missile. He's going to get injured just because of how he's playing. He needs to learn how to play. He doesn't necessarily have to play at the speed that he's still playing at. Dial it back a little bit with the reckless abandonment. Now we do appreciate you coming in and wanting to hit hard. We love that, right? We need hard hitting safeties in the league while they're still allowed, but not to the point where you can't be available on the field. So Sidney Brown, he did an okay job. Um, like I said, Ringo and Adoree Jackson just really didn't have a opportunity to show us anything because of who we played. Now, Dylan Gabriel did have some moments where he was able to make some plays, especially on third down. But some of those were just good throws. But for the most part, I don't think that it was anything that we could really evaluate the cornerbacks and ultimately put anybody ahead of anybody else. Now, Jacorian Bennett had a nice pass breakup, very nice pass breakup. That's something that we haven't really seen out of Adoree or Ringo. He was able to stay in the hip pocket of the wide receiver, and ultimately, when the ball got there, he was able to attack and knock it down. So I'll be interested to see what Jacorian Bennett looks like after a couple more practices and getting into, understanding the playbook. He could potentially, end up starting down the road. I don't foresee him being the starter against the Cowboys, but hey, who knows? He could be starting against the Chiefs and on. Um, when we think about who technically is winning or leading in that room, Adoree Jackson has 11 camp starts. Ringo has 6. So if you take, if you want to take that for anything, it kind of is what it is. Adoree Jackson might be leading a little bit, but it's still this competition is wide open. Nobody took it by the horns. Um, I'm just glad that they did make some type of move in bringing Jacorian Bennett in from a depth standpoint. And, he's a young guy. If he pans out, maybe he can earn a contract and be that Isaiah Rodgers from last year. If Jacorian Bennett can be Isaiah Rodgers from last year for us, I'm good with that. I take it. I take it because we got to consider the fact that we don't have our starting D line out there yet. Um, the front seven isn't solidified yet. Pieces like Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship weren't on the field. So, once we have a full starting 11 out there, things will look better. Quinyon Mitchell obviously wasn't out there. So, once we have a full starting 11 out there, things will look different. You won't have that much time. Can you give me, as a cornerback, can you cover your guy for at least 5 to 6 seconds? Now that might not seem like a lot of time for some people, but if you can at least stay with them, man, don't get beat bad. Um, Stay in his hip pocket for 5 to 6 seconds. I think we're gonna be able to get there. This is gonna be an elite pass rushing unit, in my opinion. See, able placement. Cheap views on stream. Oh, we got Mr. Spam. Appreciate you. Hold that, Mr. Spam. But yeah, when we talk about the outlook, so at this point, we got 2 preseason games in the books. We got some injuries out there, but I would think, from a starting standpoint, you got to go from the line on up. Um, Jalen Carter, you got Jordan Davis. Those would be my 2 starters. A Jomo, maybe even a Jomo. Uh, on the outside, Nolan Smith. You got Jalix Hunt or maybe a Josh Uche. When linebackers, because of health, Jahad Campbell, Zach Bond finally was able to come back. Um, on the outside, you got Quinyon Mitchell. And right now, you got to give a nod to Adoree Jackson, just because that's what Vic seems to be doing. So I trust Vic. Vic is saying that Adoree Jackson is probably the leading man, not necessarily with his words, but the fact that he's the one that's out there the most. Um, Ed Reed Blankenship on one safety, Sidney Brown and Makuba on the other. So that's what we're looking. That's what it's looking like for a starting defensive lineup, and I'm cool with that. I think that's a great unit. Um, I didn't even mention Cooper DeJean, did I? If I didn't, he'll be obviously the starting nickel, and he's just gonna move around in base packages. So who knows? Maybe he, can play some outside cornerback opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, and it's just Mitchell and DeJean on the outsides. I'm cool with that too. I think we'll be able to be. We're going to be dangerous. We can do multiple fronts, attack you multiple ways, pretty much like we did last year, right? So we didn't necessarily run one style of offense or defense. We Whatever your weakness was, we were able to exploit it. And I see it being that same way this year. Whatever your weakness is, whether it's your offense or your defense, our job is to exploit it. So I'm excited, man. I can't wait. So if you didn't know, we are going to we've been live streaming the live reactions to the preseason games, but obviously that's going to roll over into the regular season too. So mark your calendar. So September the 4th, that's the first regular season game. That's the Eagles, that's the Cowboys. I think that's a Thursday night game. I'm gonna be there, so I expect y'all to be there too. It's the first game of the season, so we the only game in town, baby. We the only game in town, and it's real football. So, looking forward to seeing y'all there, and we're gonna turn up, and that's gonna be all throughout the season. So you can expect to see us go live for all the primetime games or as many games as possible, and then all the Birds games. So no matter if they're playing at 1 o'clock, 4:30, 4:10, whenever that game of the week 4:25 is, or if it's the primetime game at night, we're gonna be there. All Birds games and most of the primetime games all year long. So take take this time to go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, share this live out. Um, that's pretty much all that I have for you today. I just wanted to, give a brief overview of my thoughts on how the game went. We got one more game left against the Jets, right? So y'all let me know how y'all feel about the game, if I missed anything. And of course, we're going live. We'll probably be back Thursday to preview the Jets. Maybe not, but you'll definitely catch me live streaming the Jets game on Saturday, and I think that game is at 7:30 at night. So almost prime time, but not quite. So that's the last preseason game. We'll be right here. Dom and I turning up. Make sure that y'all like, comment, subscribe, share the live out. Make sure you hop on over to the Sports Lounge Media and Then there you'll be able to see great shows like the Down South Philly show. You'll be able to see the Marshall Experience. You'll be able to see Sports with Sunshine. You'll be able to see SLM Bets, and Ken's Pets Talks. With Ken, he talks about Patriots. He's basically the Patriot version of the Down South Philly show, except for he's been doing it longer. So it might be that the Down South Philly show is a spinoff of Ken, respectfully. But yeah, we got a great gambit of shows on there. We adding some more shows. That's Sports Lounge Media. If you see the logo, you're in the right place. Um, Go ahead and give us all a sub on there. Like I said, we'll be back for the game. Possibly back Thursday, but definitely back for the game. That's all for today. I always got to hit you with a go birds. Y'all have a good night.